Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook for October 15th, 2025. Let's start off with the National Hurricane Center map for today. And we have nothing going on in the Atlantic right now. We have Lorenzo, which is degenerated into a post-tropical system as of the 5 o'clock advisory this afternoon. So that doesn't really count as something active in the Atlantic anymore. But we had Lorenzo here. It was a weak tropical storm in the central MDR, and now it is gone, and we won't have to worry about Lorenzo. And for now, at least over the next week or so, although I think that will change somewhat soon, we don't have anything else in the Atlantic to track just yet. But in the Eastern Pacific, we have Invest 91E, and this is at a moderate chance for development, up to a 60% chance in the next week, with a 40% chance in the next 48 hours. And I think this might more than likely than not potentially develop and become our next system here in the Eastern Pacific. And it's probably going to develop just off the coast of Mexico. And as you know, the situation typically is in October, interests along the Mexican coastline, especially near the Baja, should watch out. Not sure if this is going to make a landfall in Mexico just yet, but I guess we will find out here in the coming week as this develops. Here's a satellite image of the Atlantic just to give you an idea of what's happening now. And you can see that we do have not much happening in the MDR here. There are still some tropical waves and probably a wave here moving off the coast of Africa. And then I believe right in here, this is the remnants, or now remnants of Lorenzo, and producing some convection right now, I guess. So maybe there's still some life left in it, but obviously probably no more of a defined circulation. So the National Hurricane Center no longer tracking this as a tropical system. But I do want to point you to one thing that I find really interesting. Look at how much energy we have here in the mid-latitudes in the Atlantic versus how much energy we have here in the MDR. And I think this probably would have been better to represent on the 850 millibar vorticity map that I like to bring up from time to time. But you can still see it here on satellite. Quite a few of these pretty potent lows, especially some of the energy that's in here that's probably associated with what the leftovers of the nor'easter along the East Coast that we had this weekend. But in general, just see quite a few of these low pressures here throughout the central and northern Atlantic. And this is going to become a lot more common, especially now as we begin to continue, or at least continue, since we're already in October. We're going to continue to progress into the winter and fall, or fall and winter months. And as that happens, the mid-latitudes will start becoming a lot more active, and obviously the tropics will continue to become less active, but still something to track here in the next week or so, and that especially will focus in on the Caribbean, and of course I'll mention that in just a moment. But really quickly, let's look at the Eastern Pacific, and also things in the Eastern Pacific quieting down pretty considerably as well. Looks much more dry, especially the further deeper into the Pacific you go. Almost no convective activity happening here in the I2CZ, so really things are beginning to calm down, although we do have this energy here that we're watching off the coast of Mexico, and this is what we're going to watch over the next several days as this tracks again just to the west-southwest off the coast of Mexico. Obviously, though, we'll be watching to see if any direct impacts to Mexico occur here over the next week or so in the Eastern Pacific. Let's take a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies. And starting off in the Atlantic, very, very warm, especially in the Eastern MDR here. We have this interesting patch, 1, even 2 degrees Celsius above normal here just off the coast of Africa, but the biggest area of concentrated warmth right now in the Atlantic is especially in the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico, as it's been for quite a few weeks now. And this is very significant because we are in October, and as I've said this before multiple times before, the Caribbean is the area to watch. in the month of October in the Atlantic. That's where we get the strongest activity to happen. Sometimes we could still get tropical activity in the eastern MDR, as we've seen with now Jerry and Lorenzo, but climatologically favored. The favorite area is the Caribbean, especially the Western Caribbean. And boy, take a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies here. Solidly at least a degree Celsius above normal. And then on the other hand, we have the Pacific here in a La Nina, as you can see by these cooler sea surface temperature anomalies here that stretch throughout the entire equatorial region of the Pacific. And we're also starting to see some of these cooler anomalies begin to shade back in here in the tropical Pacific and off the coast of the Baja here. And that's associated with the negative PDO, although it is a little bit warmer a little bit further up. But in general, we are in a La Nina, and you can even see that more clearly on the daily sea surface temperature anomaly plots of especially the Nino 3.4 region, which, going back to this map, what is the Nino 3.4, you might ask? Well, it's the region in the Pacific that's roughly right here. It's kind of the in-between of the Eastern Pacific and the Central Pacific. And the reason why the Nino 3.4 is very significant is because this is where we measure the sea surface temperature anomalies for ENSO, like El Nino and La Nina. And the latest value is at negative 0.5 degrees Celsius, so right at the threshold for La Nina intensity. Usually we look at La Nina as being at least negative 0.5 degrees Celsius, although we kind of tend to look at it on an average of at least a month. And pretty much for at least the last month, we've been downtrending and getting cooler, if not at La Nina conditions. And obviously, the NOAA Climate Prediction Center, and I brought this up on Monday, the NOAA Climate Prediction Center did officially put an outlook saying that we are in a La Nina now. And then obviously contrast that with the MDR, still very, very warm. Right now on the flip side of the scale here, averaging at least 0.5 degrees Celsius above normal. And it's been that way since pretty much the summer, and it's surprisingly continued even as we've progressed here into the fall, although I'm pretty sure that, as we eventually get into the winter, maybe we'll start to see things cool down a little bit, kind of what happens anyways every single year. But the combination of La Nina, very, very warm sea surface temperature anomalies, I've mentioned this before, we tend to get quite a bit of activity in the late season, especially in the Atlantic and especially in the Caribbean. And I've gone over this before. In fact, you know what? I'm actually going to show you this map first, because this is the global tropical hazards. And where do you see the highlighted area, at least for week 2? That's in the Caribbean, but I want to put into perspective why this is important, because climatologically speaking, this is the shaded area of where we typically see activity in the Atlantic. And where is the highest concentration? Once again, in the Caribbean, especially the Western Caribbean. And then we kind of see, tracks, turning north and then northeastward here. Florida, we still can get activity, actually, if you can believe it. We still can get activity that sometimes impacts Florida in the southeast United States later on into the season, although that kind of begins to cut off as we head into late October and early November. And then we also get quite a bit of subtropical activity that begins to occur. But again, in the Caribbean, you see where's the highest concentration of storms here in the month of October. It's in the Caribbean, especially in the Western Caribbean. And then going to the global tropical hazards for week 2, from October 22nd to 28th, so pretty much the last week of October here. So I would generally say put it into now until the end of October. Where is their highlighted area that they have for tropical development in the Atlantic? And it's in the Caribbean. So all of these things are coming together, and we even see it as well on the global models. This is the European ensemble for the 12Z, and taking this out over the next 10 days, you see we have quite a few ensemble members here showing development in the Caribbean, especially intensifying and getting stronger in the central and western Caribbean, and I would not pay attention much to track right now. Just want to show you the signal because most of these ensemble members happen around 7 to 10 days out. But that's what you need to look at initially, especially with the long range. It's always about monitoring the signal. And you also see here, especially as we get towards around 9 to 10 days and this approaches the Western Caribbean, we start seeing quite a few strong ensembles here. And I should also point out that if you don't know how to read ensemble maps, no, all of these tracks are not, all the kind of storms that are going to happen. These are just ensembles, which is pretty much the European model ran at least 50 different times, and you get 50 different scenarios, but they're all from the same model. So they're all showing different scenarios of potentially the same storm that might happen here in the Caribbean. And what we especially look at in the ensembles is how many are there and how solid of a signal there is. And I will tell you for sure, especially here over the next 7 to 10 days, there is definitely a strong signal, pretty much in line with climatology and what even other indicators are showing. And even finally, to close off here, the GFS model. And I'll take this out here over the next week. Not much happens. Looks like there's maybe something that happens interesting here, in the northwestern Atlantic, probably associated with, once again, the remnants of the nor'easter. Although I'm pretty sure that not much will come of that, but still looks interesting nonetheless. Anyway, taking it out through time here, not much else happens. But you do start to notice there's a patch of vorticity moves through the islands around 5 days out into early next week. And then as we get towards the hour 168 mark, 7 days out, you start to see vorticity beginning to pile here in the Caribbean. And I'll even take this out a little bit further than that. And this is roughly now 8 to 9 days out on the GFS, which you can't take verbatim. I'm just showing you here the signal. And they too show activity that occurs here in the Atlantic. And lastly, I do want to show you as well that the GFS does show activity occur here in the Eastern Pacific, and at least on this run of the GFS, something pretty decent actually happens. So maybe the Eastern Pacific might get another hurricane here, yet another one. So continuing the streak of quite a bit of activity that they've had this season, surprisingly. While the Atlantic, kind of, chugging along. Looks like we've tried to catch up in recent weeks a little bit. As I said, they would happen. And the season is still not over yet. We have till November 30th, and especially as we are still in the month of October, we still have to watch, especially places like the Caribbean, and that's where the signals are here over the next 7 to 10 days. So we'll be continuing to keep a very close eye out here on the tropics. With that being said, I'm going to end it off for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed what you saw today. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe. And as always, I'll be back with more tomorrow. See you then.